Today we are welcomed by Mr. Jonathan Zirkle, who is the Vice President of Religious Liberty for Liberty and Health Alliance. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Zirkle.
Thank you.
Well, today we're going to be talking about something very exciting. Mr. Zirkle, there's a program that's coming to Tampa, September 15 to 18, in just a few months, and we want to talk about that. But before we do, we have a follow-up to the Easter program that we did just a couple months ago. And in that program, we discussed Satan's attack on society, pretty much an attack on what God created in the Garden of Eden. We want to touch on that real briefly, and we want to talk to you about why it's so important you come to Tampa and learn more about this. So some of the principles, obviously, that God originated, Mr. Zirkle, as we all talk about in the Garden of Eden. Most importantly, he created freedom of choice, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, did he put guard dogs and barbed wire fence around the tree of knowledge of good and evil?
No.
No, of course not. Why not?
You know, the basis of God's kingdom is love. And with love, you have to have freedom, because if you don't have freedom, you can't love.
And even if the choice resulted, which of course it did, resulted in the destruction of humanity. I mean, look at where we've been for the last 6,000 years. God still felt that that was of paramount importance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that we want to obviously discuss is what's happened over the last 2 years and the ability for individuals, whether it be in Christendom or without, to make decisions of religious liberty.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we want to talk about, of course, a principle that God created in the Garden of Eden. We'll come back to that in just another minute. Another thing that God, of course, created is, he said he created them male and female. In the image of God, he created them male and female. Is there a host of opportunities of gender between male and female?
There's only two.
So God created man and woman in his image, thereby our bodies are important to him. Our image is important to him holistically. And he created two, male and female. Well, following along this principle of religious liberty, we want to come back to this topic as well. Is it a liberty of conscience issue? Is it a religious liberty issue? Is it a liberty or freedom issue for a child, let's say 8 years old, who decides that they don't want to be the gender that they were given by God at their origination, and they want to be another gender? We want to come back to that question, because that is again, following this idea of what is liberty of conscience, what is religious liberty. We want to touch bases back on that. And then the third thing, of course, that God created in the Garden of Eden, he said, be fruitful and multiply to all of the creatures that he created, including man and woman. He said, now I want you to go out and be fruitful and multiply. And we have within society, unfortunately, just the opposite of that in some cases. We have situations where we're talking about millions of whether babies who've actually taken breaths, and now in 2 states, opportunities for people to at least be on the books of a discussion after delivery for babies to even be terminated. What's your thoughts on that, sir?
I mean, it's a fairly recent development, and it's horrendous. I don't think we've seen where this is going to go, but it's really disturbing.
And so when we look at all of these things as an attack on what God created in Eden, I don't think you can say, oh, this is this individual, or this is that individual, or this is this party or that party. Rather, I think this is a satanic attack on what God created at origination.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so what would you say to our viewers? Because these are the things that we're going to be discussing in Tampa and much, much more. What would you say to our viewers as to why, given this craziness that's happening in society, why they should come to Tampa and learn more about some of these topics?
Well, I think it's extremely important that people are aware of these topics, and we can listen to them on the news and everything, but if you just listen to the news and listen to what other people are telling you, you're being very reactive. And I think it's important to come, because we're going to teach you a lot more about what's going on, things you may not hear in the news. There's another thing that I think that's going to be happening, and that is, in America, it seems like people are kind of like lining up on one side of the issue or the other. And what I really believe is that either side, we're starting to see impingement on religious liberty. And it's really important for people to understand exactly what the principles of religious liberty are, because you can go off the track on either side. You can go off on the track on the wrong side of killing babies.
Right.
Or you can go off on the other track, which is the other wrong side, which is really truly imposing religious beliefs on people. And what you have to do is you got to find that center road where you actually give religious freedom to people, but you also respect human life. And so I think it's really important that people understand that, because that understanding may not be something that you're going to get when you look at the internet or watch Fox News or whatever your favorite news source is going to be. And so I would really encourage people to come so that we can help them to think in just a sophisticated manner about what religious liberty really stands for.
Something else that our viewers really want to pay attention to is we will be offering classes. Now again, this is Tampa, Florida, September 15 to 18, just in a couple months. We want you to save the dates. More information as far as the designated hotel and also locations, etc., will be provided in the upcoming weeks. But we want to tell you about 3 separate tracks and classes that will be offered. Again, everything will be for free, so we hope that you will come. There'll be a children's program, as always, but there will also, for the adults and those who would like to join, the children can join as well, 3 different tracks. One looking at evangelism. You know, something that's happened over the last couple of years that I know you, Mr. Zirkle, you and I have talked at length about, is the fact that taking a perspective of standing for liberty of choice, liberty of conscience, and religious liberty has opened the door wide open to presenting God's 3 angels' messages, which are so vital. As Seventh-day Adventist Christians, we believe it's the message that God gave to us to share with those around us. And it's been a beautiful blessing, and we want to actually invite you to come to those classes. The second, of course, course would be the one that we've already talked about, classes on liberty of conscience. We also want to point out that those classes will be teaching you how to have courage. How can you actually learn to exercise courage, even in the case of persecution? And then the third, of course, track is how do you have healthy living? We want to provide full-on information on healthy living and answering how do you optimize your immunity. We have amazing speakers already confirmed. Of course, Mr. Zirkle, we are so looking forward to your legal and religious liberty opportunities. We also have some others that are coming, and Dr. Peter McCullough will be joining us, Mr. Matt Staver, and many others. So we definitely want you to keep the date, save the date, plan to attend. Mr. Zirkle, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers at this time?
I just think that we live in very interesting times, and I think it's extremely important for us to be educated and really participate. And don't just watch the world burn around you, but actually participate in this. It's exciting times. And I think Tampa Bay is going to be a great place to go to equip yourself.
So we will see you there, September 15 to 18, Tampa, Florida. God bless.